Brad Hill, welcome to the Something Nothing Everything podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you. We go back, man. You know, I know we kind of lost contact over the years. Brad Hill is a uncle of mine, and it was awesome to have you come out to Colorado and visit.
Thank you. I really appreciate you, giving us that hospitality, and it's just been great since we've been out here.
Yeah, man. It's always interesting when people come out to Colorado because they kind of experience like how large the mountains actually are and how small somebody feels. And I know we were out on Loveland Pass going up towards Breckenridge, and we stopped right there at that little picturesque area. And not only were you a little winded because we were at 12,000 feet.
I was.
Yeah, 12,000 feet.
This elevation got to me. It got to me when I first got here. I felt it. It took me a good solid 24 hours to really, okay, now I'm feeling better. But yeah. If you're not
dude,
used
I told you drank plenty of water before you came out here.
I did.
Yeah?
I think that's what saved me for being worse than what I was.
Yeah. But a comment you made that, a lot of people make that come out here is they often realize how small they actually are in the grand scheme of just even Colorado. You're walking around and these mountains, they're almost like a green screen in the background. And then when you actually get up to them, you realize, because you look down at the highway that you just drove up or whatever it is, of how small you are in comparison to these magnificent things. So,
absolutely. It's all inspiring. Like, wow, we are just a sliver of a piece of human being flesh. It's on this great earth of ours, and seeing those kind of things is just amazing. And to actually do it with you guys and the family, it was a good moment.
Yeah, you are an uncle, but our kids are the same age, so it's awesome having her here. And
I got started together.
Yeah, well, career choices,
never.
Right?
Better late than never.
Yeah, and so we'll kind of get into. I'll give you a quick summary, kind of intro that everybody that comes on this podcast gets one. But served over 20 years in the United States Navy full time. Before that, grew up in upstate New York, and post Navy have recently. You went to Nevada for a little bit, but then recently moved out to California, where you're going to school for engineering right now. Is that correct?
That's right. Right now, I'm in I'm in my fourth year of studying. I'm about 4 months away from graduating. But I'm going to just shift that right over to my master's program.
Okay.
And continue because I love what I do. And it's been good. I'm having the opportunity to be in my daughter's life. That's the greatest thing. She's everything to me.
Yeah.
So being in her life and having to have that opportunity to go to school full time and also get paid for that full time is just incredible.
How are you getting paid full time?
Military. I have the post 9/11 GI Bill.
Okay.
But I also qualify for the VRE.
Okay.
It's a vocab rehab.
Yeah.
For education, and that's where I'm at now. They give you benefits as long as you have a program that you've been approved for.
Okay.
It's been good. It's pretty much similar to the post 9/11.
Yeah.
And they're there through thick and thin, support you for to reach your goal.
So let me ask you this, and we'll jump more into your experiences and your career and everything else like that. But because this brings up a good point, as a veteran myself, I didn't know about the BRNE until a previous conversation we had. Is there a good point of contact that veterans can look into to get this information?
Great question. Yes, there is. So if you have any questions out there, fellow brothers and sisters who are vets, please look into it. The VA.gov. Please go to that website and go to the education and training and look under there and look under VRNE and read that, and it'll show you all the information that you need to read and what to do and the steps to take. Please go there and take advantage of that program. It's there and it's for you. And don't dig into your post 9/11 if you don't need to right away. They're there and they will support up to 4 years of your education that's approved. Once they get you set up with a counselor, remember, you have to remember too, they're in place to help rehab you to get you job placement, get you back into the workforce. All right, it's a different type of program, different from the post 9/11, but
yeah, right.
But yeah, it's there. And
cool. Yeah, I'll add the link at the bottom. It's pretty simple. va.gov, Victor Alpha George Oscar Charles.
Yes, that's
or golf.
great.
Sorry, military and the law enforcement. Fanatical. I always get that messed up. So let's dive right into it, man. So you ended up joining the Navy after the 9/11 attacks on the Twin Towers here in the United States. So was there anything else that motivated you prior to going, like that one particular event, or?
Well, before 9/11, I'll go before 9/11. I was, still tossed up what I wanted to do with my life while I was in high school. But I was like, okay, do I want to go where my dad went, and that was the Marines, or do I want to go where my uncle is, and that's the Navy he was in at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But after 9/11, I kind of
where'd you go to school in high school?
So I went to Henniger High School.
Okay.
It's in Syracuse, New York. And I went there the full 4 years, graduated, got my diploma. But after 9/11 happened, it was right after I graduated. That's what really solidified for me to join. And it was the Navy because I had spoke to my uncle recent before that.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of guided and told me what kind of things that look into and look forward to, and there's just all sorts of stuff for the Navy. And so I was like, you know what, let's do this.
That's crazy, man, to think about, because I know your life and we'll get into it a little bit, but like that one conversation is what led you to meet your wife and now have your daughter.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which is crazy to think about, these like small little interactions that we have with people.
Right. If I would have never joined the military and be in the Navy, I would have probably never been in San Diego at that time, where we met back in 2005. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's crazy, man. So how did you feel? You said this was right after graduation and the 9/11 attacks happened. How did you feel as an American at this time?
It's a great question, but probably like quite a bit of us, we all felt vulnerable. We felt like, whoa, what's going on? Nobody knew what was going on until that second plane hit. That's when it really, really hit home. Being from upstate New York, the attack on the cities and, different parts of our country as well. That was just, it was like, they cannot get away with this. There's no way. What can I do? What's my small part in all this? And that's what I was. I was scared. Come on, you have to have.
You talking like when you went to the recruiter?
Oh yeah, dude. Like if you're not, don't kid yourself. If you're in that service during that time, or you were about to join right after, like people are looking at like you have some balls of steel.
Yeah,
but you're crazy. You're crazy. But that's when everything just started to take off, and recruiting stations were getting people just walking in the doors left and right.
Yeah.
They were getting stormed with so many people, wanting to do their part from all walks of life. So yeah.
And I'm assuming we'll get into this, but did you do any recruiting during your time in the Navy?
No, I didn't do any recruiting.
Okay.
No.
What were your job title when you first went in? What was your job assignment?
So when I first joined, my job assignment was aviation.
Okay.
I joined in the aviation sector. I was an aviation bosun's mate, launch recovery. So I did a lot of flight deck stuff. So that was pretty much the main logist. But I got a lot of experience of doing a lot of material movements and stuff like that, logistics.
Okay.
I did a lot of that kind of stuff, both on land and ashore. Shore, on land, out there in the Middle East, those kind of things. But the big bulk beef of it was the aviation side.
Okay.
Of launch and recovery during the heat of the war, 2003, 2005. Things things were pretty hot during that time.
So let me ask you this: when you so you walk in the recruiter, you feel scared, right?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of emotions going through me at that time, But
did you tell any of your family members you were going to do this?
Yes, I did. One person.
Who was it?
And that was my mom.
Really?
It was. I was like, Mom, I'm doing this. She's like, she was very proud, and she was she was celebrating like, you're crazy, but I'm glad you're just taking life by the horns and doing what you don't want to do,
Yeah.
And I remember that. He was, his grandma hall there.
Yeah.
And mom and some family. She had a celebration before I left. It was pretty cool.
And so you walk in there. You take so this is my experience. So for the people that haven't joined the military yet, you don't just walk in and join. There's an entire process. No, you still got to take the ASVAB and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So when you walked in, were you anticipating to take so many tests just to get in?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. It's not
that old man telling you to do the duck walk and squat and bend over, touch your toes when your butt ass naked.
No, so backing up just a little bit. So I went through high school though, but I didn't do any of that JROTC stuff, so I didn't have all that experience. So yeah, it was all new to me.
Yeah.
So when I went to that recruiting station and they were like, all right, you got to do this, you got to do that. Everything you said, pretty much I had to do, right?
Yeah.
Took the ASVAB, passed, and did well. But something inside, I just wanted to be somewhere where the action was, and be a part and see what was going on. So that's why I picked more of the aviation side.
Okay.
But it's been good, Fast forward a little bit, met a lot of great people. I really did. All the way up until I retired in January of 2022. Been to a lot of places, seen a lot of things, good and bad, but that's just part of it. It's part of the military, right? That last tour was amazing. It was really giving back with those kids.
Yeah,
I say kids, but they're grown men and women. And
you do feel old very quickly in the military, though. I remember I was telling you last night when we were talking about my last deployment, and I was a staff sergeant, and went over to the Middle East with a bunch of new people. So they were 18 years old, 19 years old, and you have a 27-year-old. To them, that you're old. Yeah. Like 27 years old, and I've been in at that point for 8 years. I've been around the block for a minute. So, but I want to jump into kind of the training and everything else like that. So we talked about you going to the recruiter's office, and how quickly did they send you off for basic? Do they call it basic?
They do. It's basic. It's basic training. So it's a recruit basic training. It's in Great Lakes there. So yeah, it was pretty quick. Back in November, I went to the recruiting station, and where was that? Mattydale, New York is where I got recruited out of. It was HT2 at the time. But yeah, so I went to the recruiting station there. That's where everything got started. Back in like November 2001, and I was gone pretty quick. I was able to pick a date, and I said, you know what? There's gonna be a lot going on if I wait till after the holidays.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like, you know what? Let's do it. It was challenging, tough to make the decision, but I went right before Christmas.
So it's cold.
It's
in
cold.
Chicago.
It was really freaking cold that year. Yes.
I thought I froze my ass off, and I left. When did I go to basic? I left in February of 14 or something like that.
February 2014.
Yeah, that's when I went, and Air Force is San Antonio, so you think it's gonna be warm to get to San Antonio, and it's March, or like end of February, March. It's cold, but not Chicago cold.
Yeah, it was brutal in Chicago.
How long is the Navy basic?
So when I went through, it was 8 weeks.
Okay.
8 weeks.
Okay. That's pretty quick.
Yeah, and then when I was there during, becoming a recruit division commander, they were pretty much 8 weeks. But in the time where I was transitioning to retire, they bumped it up to 10 weeks.
Oh, okay. Why? Weeks. What was the logic behind that?
Well, they wanted to give more time with the RDCs and a lot of experience that goes there, and they wanted to give them an opportunity to adjust and the salarization piece.
Okay. Yeah.
Salarization piece to get them ready for the fleet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Instead of just going straight from boot camp or basic right into your tech school.
Right.
Right.
A school or
Yeah.
maybe C school. Mhm.
Yeah, sorry. Air Force calls it tech school. I'll use probably Air Force terminology and try to explain it. And then, of course, if you use Navy terminology, and I'll
Yes.
say like, what is that? Yeah. Okay, cool, man. So
Yeah.
you go to basic. You're there for 8 weeks. Do you go home after the 8 weeks?
I didn't. I decided I just wanted to save my leave.
Okay.
Call leave. It's vacation for the civilians out there listening in, but leave. So I just didn't have enough, and I wasn't ready to go home at that time because it was April when I was done.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, no. I take that back. So I got out of boot in February
Okay.
of 2002.
Yeah.
And then I went to my A school in Pensacola, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit warmer there at that time, but still cold. I was only there for a couple months, for the A school training, and I was into the fleet on board, and I checked in on board the Nimitz of April 2002. So,
okay. So then
that's when I went to San Diego.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the difference between the Air Force and the Navy, you guys are assigned to a ship, not a base.
It really depends. I mean, it depends on who needs who and who needs what. At that time, me and the rate I chose, it was more, you're going out to sea. It's a sea specific, sea dominant rate, and they needed some ABEs to be out there. On ships.
Yeah.
So
So you get, this is 03 you said at this point?
2002.
Okay, so 2002 you're assigned to the Nimitz. Rotationally wise, when did you end up going over for your first deployment or tour or whatever they call it?
Quick. So I checked on board April 2002.
Yeah.
And within not even a year, I was going in the heart of all the things that are going on in the Middle East. So yeah.
So walk me through, because at this point I'm still in elementary school or middle school, probably elementary school at this point. Not to make you sound old, but
I'm old.
I'm old. Historically speaking, though, from a standpoint of the Middle East, what's going on when you first get the news that you're heading out, and what's going through your brain?
Oh, man, it's a lot to take in. I was a young 19 going on 20-year-old young man. No family at the time, in a new area. San Diego was all new to me, on my own, knew no one. And to get the word hey, we're about to get ready, we're shipping out. It's a lot to take in. It really is. But what helps is your shipmates. We call it shipmates, your comrades, your brothers, sisters out there. There's a lot of them that take you under their wings. The higher ups, the ones that have been there, done that, or been there longer than us, right? So that's what I did. It was very hard at first to get acclimated to the military way to do things, but I quickly had to make something of myself as checking on board. Okay, so what do I need to do first? I was in survival mode. What do I need to get done to make sure I can be mentally, physically prepared to just leave? And, and that was to make sure I had all my finances in check. Make sure I had what I needed to go on deployment, to ensure that, okay, family knows, or how to get in touch with me if they need to, or how to write to me or do whatever.
Yeah, it sounds like with the finances stuff, you were preparing to not come back.
You never know. You just never know. Being a young 19, 20, you don't know what you're getting yourself into.
Sure.
And that's the thing. They could tell you what to expect. Who's been on board my ship, who has already gone to a deployment, a war type of scenery. But everything is different. You just don't know. You don't know. You don't know if you're going to come back. That's it's a possibility. You just never know.
How'd that sit with you though?
It was a tough pill to swallow. It was, but hey, so, at the end of the day, when I lay my head down to rest, I had to just keep telling myself, what, it's what I signed up for.
Yeah.
So if this is how I'm gonna go out, I'll go out.
So you go over. Are you primarily on the boat still? Are they doing like strikes on countries at this point?
So when we got,
Because they're still. I'm sorry, they're still on the hunt for Osama bin Laden, and for Saddam.
yes, we were on the hunt for both, but more so, Saddam.
Okay.
Saddam Hussein. Well, no, both, for the
Right.
most part, both. But we were trying to go after who, legitimately was after behind 9/11, and that was Osama bin Laden.
Right.
But no. So when we left, about early to mid 2003.
Yeah.
We went straight. We hauled ass. Went straight up there.
Straight up to
the Middle
like
East,
the Arab Gulf.
Yeah, the area of our responsibility.
Okay.
And we relieved another
Yeah.
the fleet.
Ships in the area.
Yeah, the fleet that was in the area at the time. We were there for a while. It was pretty hot and heavy at that time.
So what's the actual deployment look like for somebody that's on a ship, that's assigned to a ship?
So if you're on a deployment carrier, that's what I was on. This is carrier. USS Nimitz is carrier. A deployment typically is 6 to 8 months. Could be shorter, could be a little longer. You're typically in theater, doing your missions and launch and recovering. And everybody has their different jobs, within the ship. It's a floating city. It really is. It's nuts. It really is. Everybody, you got the mess decks, you got the cooks, you got the post office that's getting the mail, you got the logistics and the supplies coming in. You've got OSs, dealing with radars and things around us. You got quartermasters, the ones directing us on where to go and to steer and putting us where we need to be. Just everything coming into place to get the job done, to protect those that were on the land at that time. Because we were the air, the air guard. We were protecting from the air. All the Marines and the Army at that time. And
yeah, because one of the main things about the Air Force is we need an air base relatively close. And from at that point, we might have had a few in Kuwait from the Gulf Wars, but not operationally like we do with the carrier group or the carriers. And from my experience, a lot of the intelligence gathering and kind of the strike fast groups, more often than not, are Navy pilots because they're there. They're immediately on standby. You don't need to get somebody. You don't need to move a jet to from Ramstein to Ali Salim and then launch it from Ali Salim or another air base in Iran or Iraq Iraq. But yeah, so where were you at? Are you allowed to say like where you guys were at, like sea wise?
No, I can't really say, but in that area.
Okay. So
I don't want to give specifics.
Yeah. No, I know because operationally we still kind of use those same areas. But what did anything significant happen during this first tour?
Yeah, I mean, while we were it was the heat. It was the heat of battle at the time. So yeah, things. Man, I just remember not barely sleeping. Maybe 3-4 hours if I was lucky, because we were just constantly. I mean, we would have we would load up these aircraft. They were loaded, and they would all come back empty. The ordnance was just done, So we knew when we were launching these heavies, we call them the heavies, that and they come back empty. Things were hot and heavy, but I mean, you can look I was on board the flight deck. Things were going on around us. We were very close, and there was just
like you could still see the shoreline and the smoke and stuff.
Oh yeah, it was nuts, dude. It was nuts. Everywhere.
That's crazy, dude. Because one well placed. I mean, I guess there's the anti-missile systems and stuff like that on those boats, but you'd think they would be further out because jet fuel and stuff.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, we were super close, man. But yeah, come to find out now, 2024,
Yeah.
a lot of that stuff was like their, well, at the time, I'm sure some of them were, oils at refineries that are just blown up, right?
Oh, yeah,
Get rid of all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But, come to find out now, it's a lot of that stuff was like, the troops on the ground were, it's just burning their trash up.
Oh, really? So like the burn pits and stuff like that.
Yes.
So the black smoke you were seeing were just troops.
Yeah, and I'm sucking it in, man. It's like, like it's good stuff, man, along with all that jet fuel.
Yeah.
Never knew at the time.
This is because you were on the Nimitz, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was my first assignment.
So if my history, it's been a while. Were you still on the Nimitz when they got Osama Bin Laden?
I was.
So hold on, before we jump there, because that's juicy. Let's talk about, because I'm all about the human experience, right? So you get back home. How do you feel
After that first deployment?
Yeah.
Just a totally different person, man. Yeah. I mean, for the better, but more like, okay. Like, you got to love those that love you and family and those around you. Just hug them. Yeah. You just never know.
Did you, if you don't mind me asking, did you guys lose anybody on that tour on the boat or by pilot wise or anything like that?
We did.
So,
whether it was, some natural causes or a medical condition that was
undiagnosed, exasperated.
But some other things, but I won't get into that.
Yeah. One of the most terrifying things, because when I joined the Air Force, I worked in the KC-135s, and one of the more terrifying things I remember from one of our training videos was when they were doing an engine test, and somebody kind of beep-bops up, and this gets sucked into a freaking engine. And so like when I think of carriers and stuff like that, I'm like, dude, the amount of anxiety I would have from getting sucked into a freaking engine, like I wouldn't be able to operate.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, that's the job I do.
Oh, you were the dude that like tucked.
Yes.
And like.
Yes, the guy under there. That was my job detail. Yeah.
That's nuts, man.
Yeah. Talking about living on the edge.
Yeah, dude. So you get home, you feel like a new person.
Totally. That first deployment.
Yeah, I was about to say. So, did you go, because you're in San Diego, you're stationed in San Diego. Did you go back to New York and visit family or anything?
After that?
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, I did for, usually I go back to the East Coast 2-3 weeks at least, especially coming off a deployment like that,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I remember that. It was like towards the winter time, cold as shit, Syracuse, going home, got to see my, my parents and siblings, and, it was nice. It really was. And then, seeing a few good friends I keep in touch with that have, done great things over the years. Yeah.
So then you go back to San Diego, and then how long until your next deployment?
So yeah, our ship was broken. It was just so beat up. So it took a while. And being in San Diego, things are, it comes to the periodics and the maintenance and all that. We got more time. So it was a good year. Before so I had a little bit of time in between time.
So as you're stateside, what are you doing, I guess, as a job then, while you're just waiting to go back on the ship?
Fixing all the broken shit. Our ship was just beat up and just broke. It just was broke. I mean, you just, 6, 7, 8, 9 months, some of these ships are out for, or even longer. Yeah. They just get beat up. And then 2003 deployment.
Yeah.
It was
bad.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah. We had to do a lot of maintenance, and that requires, bringing on board contractors and just a lot of experts to help us out, to just get, because the work is just so much. It entails so much. But yeah, probably a little over a year, and then we're building back up to get right back out there. doing some test phasing and stuff like that, and making sure everything's working. We go out for a little bit, come back in, kind of stuff.
Let me ask you this, because you said your first deployment was 02, right? Or 03?
2003.
2003.
Early 2003.
Then we found Osama Bin Laden in 2012, I believe. 2011?
Something around
under the Obama administration. So at this point, you'd almost been in that theater, or we've almost been at war for 10 years at that point. From the first deployment, we'll jump over to the Osama Bin Laden deployment, where because his body was brought back to the ship,
right,
and then like respectfully based on their beliefs, right.
Mm-hmm. Not so much of a ceremony, is more of just burial at sea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
10 years is a long time. It's a long time for any nation to be at conflict, at war, whatever you want to call it. I remember going to Bagram, and the thing that shocked me the most was the amount of fucking convenience stores. And that's when I realized, like, I'm like, wait a minute. This is a war zone. That's a fucking Taco Bell, right? So I'm sitting there, I'm like, what is going on, man? Like, this isn't anything that I thought of. And what I'm getting at is
nothing
like,
that was in your head, right?
Nothing. No. And
totally different, yeah.
But what I want to inquire about is, like, did you feel any sort of way over those years, over those 8 years between your first deployment and then that one, where
the next back when we did that? Sure. I mean, a lot of years have gone by.
Yeah.
By that time, I've seen a lot of different things. That was one of them. It's just when that was going down, like, it was just like, all right. I don't remember them ever announcing it was going on in the hangar bay, but it was more like the word got around. Mm-hmm. So people would come and say, nobody wants to give him any honor, really, right? He just killed over, 3,000 people. So it was quick, but I took a moment to get down there. Yeah. So I'm like, this piece of shit, I want to at least see this. So I was one of those folks that went down quickly, and, seeing them drop them over, and everybody started clapping and went right back to business and went back and doing what we got to do.
Yeah.
While we're there, because there's still a lot to be done. But yeah, going to different places. Yeah, there's one time when our ship took a little bit of R&R, and it was in the Middle East. I won't ever forget this. I went to the UAE, United Arab Emirates. We were there, right? I got out and get some time to relax, and I'm seeing just a different lifestyle, everything. The locals. Mm-hmm. I'm scared shitless because I just don't know what these folks are all about, right? It's just everything you see and hear, and obviously during that time, right? But no, they're good people. They really are. The locals, good people.
Even in all the countries that I've been into, I've been to Saudi Arabia, and that was probably the really, really nicest one, right? And like the way I compare that is like, if you go to Denver, it's pretty nice, right? You walk around, it's modern, everything else like that. But if you go out to like Gunnison, Colorado, or like Salida's actually kind of nice. But some of these rural areas, right, you're gonna meet individuals that are just like of a different mentality.
Sure.
Same people, they're super nice, but just living their life differently.
Yeah, totally agree. Like, that's what I'm getting at is like, don't listen to that shit on TV or on the news, because their depiction is nothing like reality. There's good people. You got the good, the bad, the ugly, but there's some really good people over there as well.
I think some of the more confusing parts that I kind of got into, especially talking to our investigation side of security forces that kind of focus on intelligence gathering and all this other stuff. They work with operation or OSI. there's the Office of Special Investigations. It's just the different cliques of these people. So like the big problem with Saddam was the Ba'ath Party. But then you had the Kurds, and then you had the Shia and the Sunni rivalry of like, and then like even within the Sunni, you still had like the Ba'ath Party and then other parties that were at conflict with each other. One of the things I want to dive into, when did you end up switching from doing like flight deck stuff to like, oh, okay, I want to do training?
I was just, I was stationed in Japan, and I was forward deployed. And being forward deployed, for those who don't know, is you're the first ones they'll call. If it's something going on in that theater, and we're right there. Being forward deployed, you always have to be ready. I mean, if you're not ready, you're doing it wrong. You have to stay ready. And what I mean by that is the moment's notice we got to be out there. And we were. There's a lot of times we were. So before getting into how when I took that shift to go back to where it started, back in Japan, I was doing some work there on board the USS George Washington. Great ship, great people. I worked with some of the best, people on board the GW. And we done some deployments with them, but what really kind of hit home too was during that time where that disaster took place, and that was tough all in itself. Cause
are you saying like Fukushima?
Yes, yes. When that went down, I was there.
Oh shit!
And it was nuts. But at the time it happened, we were just like, okay, it's not that big, right? But we were away from where the actual epicenter was. I think I got home that night after work, and I'm just like, whoa, all right, this is a lot bigger than really what it is, right? And so we were, I think, within 48 hours, 72 hours, we had to be gone. And keep in mind, we just came off a deployment. Deployment, I think, for 6 months or so, yeah.
Sure.
And it was like, I think within that 10 days of being back, we already started, carting on different trailers and civilians, contractors, try to, get our shit back up to par. And we just didn't have any time. They recalled a lot of folks back. Boom, just snap a finger. We had to go. We went back out to sea to help our fellow Japanese nationals who are, who host us in their country with this natural disaster. And we went with 50% of our personnel. And we're sitting here having to operate this huge ship with 50% of our personnel. So we had to make a pit stop. We had to make a pit stop to pick up the other folks, and that was in Sasebo. And then we quickly got back out and, went right next to the USS Ronald Reagan to do what we do, and that's humanitarian efforts for the, the Japanese people that were suffering.
Yeah, and it's always interesting when you put that type of stuff in perspective, because everybody just thinks the military is going to come in and stomp everybody. But the amount of humanitarian stuff that we do around the world,
it's a ton.
And like, granted, yes, I think we are imperialist to a certain extent. We've got a freaking base in almost every single country you can name for a reason. But at the same time, we help those nations out.
Sure.
Like, those bases are there. You've got the security of the United States military, one, but then two, some shit goes down with natural disasters. We come swooping in. We help out almost immediately. Yeah. Like, granted, there's some paperwork you got to go through, but it's pretty quick.
Quick.
Yeah,
it's
super quick.
Super quick. And, all the approval process is, like, super fast.
Yep.
I mean, within the 24 hours of us leaving, we were already stacked before we left the pier.
Yeah.
With food, water. I mean, the whole hangar bay was just stuffed. But we were there. The Reagan was actually out at the time, so they were first to show up. But we were right there alongside of them and just helping out. We were just helping out. We had it was a little nerve wracking, being so close with the radiation just everywhere around us.
Yeah.
But the reason why I brought that up is because that was just like, okay, the humanitarian efforts, in Japan, being stationed there, and then coming back stateside.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, I'm always a people person. I've always
yeah.
been that way. And helping the Japanese nationals and my, everyone over there, I wanted to come back to the States and do something good as well. And it was a lot of years in at that time. I wanted to do something challenging for me personally, but I wanted to give back too.
Yeah.
And that's why I just decided, hey, let's do this. So I decided to go. Well, I first initially, when I got to boot camp, back to the Recruit Training Command at Great Lakes, I was a basic instructor. I was a recruit physical fitness instructor.
Okay.
For my first 3 years there. I loved it so much. People thought I was nuts at the time. Like, dude, what are you doing? You're gonna go from a recruit physical fitness instructor to RDC? Are you nuts?
So what is RDC?
RDC is Recruit Division Commander. It's like a drill instructor.
Okay.
For those that don't know, but I'll tell you what, it's a very vigorous training they put you through, 12 weeks.
Yeah.
To train me to lead.
Yeah.
And to teach those, because you're pretty much, you have a whole division.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it's like 50 people, at least in the Air Force. There's 50 people to one bay, so one flight.
Yeah, it's a ton. Yeah, so for the Navy, it's typically 88.
Holy shit!
88 per division.
Oh my
right,
god!
RDC. So, you typically get. I mean, it changed a little bit during the COVID time when I was there, but typically it's 3 RDCs per division, and you get you get the first RDC, second RDC, third RDC, and you train a division for 8 weeks.
So what year did you do this in?
So I was a basic. They call it basic instructor. I was a recruit physical fitness instructor, Freedom Hall, 2015. So 2015 to 2018.
I'm trying to remember when I went through. So I went Air Force, but 2014, and it was the last time that they could touch you. I specifically remember this because like 2 weeks into our BMT, basic military training, Tech Sergeant Ash came in. He like threw the podium across the room. He got all pissed. He's like, "Which one? I'm sorry if I ever offended any of you all by trying to correct your actions." He's like screaming, spitting at us, and we're all just sitting there like, what did we do wrong? He's like, just know I can no longer touch you. I can't poke you. I can't hit you. So you don't have to flinch anymore as I'm walking past you.
Hey, what year did you say this was?
This was 14.
2014?
Yeah, so this was right after the Air Force had an incident where the MTIs were like actually hurting people. There was also a sexual assault like scandal. Mm-hmm. Pretty big at Lackland Air Force Base, now a joint San Antonio base or whatever they call it now. But I just remember thinking like, is this gonna get easier or harder? and I'm sitting there, I'm thinking like everybody's like, oh man, it's gonna be so much better, it's gonna be easier. I'm like, guys, we're gonna get fucked. Like I told them, I was like, dude, they can't hit us anymore, so we're all gonna do push-ups. They can't poke us, they can't yell at us. They're just gonna make us all run. Right. And it was, dude. Yeah, when I tell you, when I tell you, like, I would rather get poked with like the brim of or they would still do that shit. They'd be like, it's an accident, as they're like yelling at you, they're hitting you with the bill of their hat. You're like, what the fuck? But
so it's pretty rugged in the Air Force too, huh?
Yeah, as soft as people think it was. I was the first flight to go through what they call as Disneyland, but it was the new
Disneyland.
Disneyland, dude.
Why? Why do they call it Disneyland?
Because so prior to this, they had the dormitories that were made in the 70s, and they were all trash. Well, they built new dormitories, and they're pretty nice, like super nice. But the problem with new, you got to keep it new.
Right.
So, dude, any scuff, we went like, dude, I remember. We were doing the freaking floor sweep with our flip-flops because they didn't give us anything, right? Like at the end of the day, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where you're doing that and you're getting all the dust bunnies.
Yeah, field day.
Yeah,
we call it field day in the Navy.
Yeah. So one kid we weren't supposed to move the beds, and he pulls this bed. It's a pretty big metal heavy bed. And then all we hear is, and like everyone stopped and looked over. It's a freaking black scuff on the ground on the brand new tile.
Yeah, that's
and then we're all sitting there like, how are we gonna fix this? So we get toothpaste and we're like trying to buff out the floor. It just makes it worse. We're all freaking out like, oh my God, we're fucked. And yeah, sure enough, we got freaking reamed. So like,
did you ever get the stains out?
Yeah,
with the toothbrush and toothpaste, you got the stains out.
No, the MT, I forgot who it was. Napolitano, I think was his name or something like that. He's like, you guys are idiots. You could have just told me this, and I could have brought you the proper stuff to fix it. Yeah. But now I look bad. And I'm just sitting there.
What was it, your forward hold? We call it the forward hold, those in charge of like the cleaning gear, cleaning supplies. It's probably like your janitor in your division or something like that, right?
What, that moved the...
the guy said, hey, I could have got this out with the right material?
No. We had 2 MTIs.
Oh, okay.
Napolitano ended up getting removed because he came in, he threw the podium, but he threw it like super like Hulk. Threw it, and it was like this $300 podium.
Oh.
Blew up. And they were like, you have an anger problem. He's like, I don't have an anger problem. These recruits have a listening problem. And he got moved off.
I think that's just a kind of like a thing throughout the branches. Like, you always... you get the mixture of folks coming in from all parts of the world and the country, and we've dealt with
I'll be completely honest. This dude, like, once we graduated, nicest guy I ever met. Still, like, to this day. And really, what he's just trying to do is stress inoculation. That's all he's trying to do, and it worked. It worked perfect. You can throw shit all around me, and I'll be like, okay, why are you throwing shit? It's not going to be like you go. Imagine this: go into a freaking Starbucks, grab a chair, and throw that chair as hard as you can at the wall. I promise you're going to find the veterans that just kind of look at you, and then you're going to see that you're going to see the civilians like, oh shit, they all run out.
I think the veterans will still be sitting there drinking their coffee and like just looking at them like,
yeah, they'll be sitting there like,
we don't even give a shit.
Honey, you see that? That guy's off his rocker.
Yeah. People don't realize we've been there, done that. We've seen a lot of crazy shit.
Yeah. So again, I think it goes back to stress inoculation. The reason, let's get back to the question I asked you, is what year you started. So 2015. This is kind of after the reform. Almost all branches in 2013, 2014 reformed their entire basic process. So you're there 2015. When did you end up getting out?
When I retired in January 2022.
Okay, so you're there for
I was there
7 years.
Right. I was there close to 8, but I was there for during that whole time too.
As a reform?
Right. Yeah. And that was a long process because you have to shift everything.
Yeah.
Not just like what you're doing, but how you're doing it. It has to be on paper in black and white. So all those, everything from how you do business day in, day out, but you also had to have just stacks and stacks of curriculum that you had to go through, like page by page by page by page, to reform.
Sure.
But at the time, right before I was done with my recruit physical fitness instructor billet, I got picked up and approved to become a recruit division commander. 2018. Things were already starting to flow at that time with the new stuff.
This was the ISIL threat, and granted they were around for a while. Like ISIS, it came up in the news in probably 2014, 2015.
Yeah, with all the
right. Yeah, with all the
misconduct and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, they were. No, I'm talking about ISIS.
Oh,
are you talking about the reform that they did in training? Oh, okay. I was misreading. So, So at this time, we went from the war in Afghanistan. We're still in Afghanistan at that point, but and then we switched more to Syria, Iraq, Iran. Well, Iraq, not Iran.
Taking the tension off one, going to another. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, you're doing all this change stuff. When you were there doing the physical fitness for 3 years, though?
I was. So that was like pretty much my job, like literally day in and day out. It was to ensure that recruits, held a standard, were physically fit, basically trained sailors. And our job was to help, they did test. They did test when they were there at boot camp. Test was PFA 1, they call it. PFA 1 was like the initial when they first get to boot camp, the shock and out, like, okay, this is what you have to do. And they see, a lot of times, they see how crappy they are.
Sure. Baseline.
Mm-hmm. That's their base, right? And that's what they call it, the baseline. We call it the baseline run, the PFA 1. And so that, over the course of the next 8 weeks, they have that time. But right in the middle of that training, about the week 4, they have that RDC assessment. That's just, see where they're at halfway through training, see if they're improving. Great. We have this state-of-the-art equipment that just tracks each and every lap, how fast or how slow they are. It's incredible. It's great. It used to be really shitty, but it's gotten way better. This stuff's made for marathons, tracking marathon runners. You think, you put the stuff in a Freedom Hall gymnasium. It's got tracks. Beautiful, beautiful gymnasium. It's got tracks up and down on 2 different levels on 4 different tracks. An eighth a mile long, right? You got to do 12 laps.
Well, and I was about to say it probably has to be that way too because Chicago's so freaking cold.
Oh yeah, dude. But don't get me wrong, there's some running, but it's going to be during those more warm months.
Yeah.
A lot more things have to take place for that to happen.
Sure.
Recruit safety being number 1, but yeah. So that was literally my job for 3 years, was to work with other physical fitness instructors that our concentration was mainly on the recruits. Because you have those, the CFL command fitness leaders that are focused on us, the personnel, because we got to keep in shape too.
Yeah.
We got to keep in shape too.
Well, you have medical appointments, dental appointments.
Dude,
you still have to be ready to deploy and all this other stuff. Right. So there does have to be someone that looks over the cadre.
Right. Us as well. Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot that doesn't nobody really knows about or doesn't really realize that RDCs have to do. You got to think too, like, okay, RDCs, we're there. Typically, 8 hours would be a typical, but usually not. Especially when things are, it really depends. It really depends how, you and your partners are. Because not everybody's leadership style is different, right? Where I'm going with this is, anywhere. It's like anywhere you go, you got to make something work out, right? There has to be maybe some compromises or, give and take as far as like the leadership style of like you leading the division. Yeah. Right. But it all just goes back to working as a team because you want your division, right? You want your division to do well. And that's your main focus, right? You want to make sure you're taking care of your partners, but you also want to take care of your young men and women because they need you there for them. They put the trust in you. Yeah, they gave you that red rope. You graduated after 12 weeks of being just brutalized, right? And they test you from every walk of life. They'll test you mentally, physically, everything. They'll just, but to that point where that physical fitness side comes into play is the RDCs is a big piece of that. Is because a lot of these kids come in and just some of them run great, but a lot of them don't. They're just not. And they're not ready for that shock.
Well, dude, did you ever run before the military?
I did, but I wasn't like an avid marathon.
Yeah, it wasn't like, wake up and go run today and make sure I'm physically fit. It was like, I could run. I'll run every now and then.
Well, for me, I was athletic. I played sports in high school. I did the baseball, basketball, football. I was totally into basketball though, and that was because of your dad. Yeah. At a young age too. I was like 12, just sitting there, just watching him play. That was my thing.
Yeah.
But I played a lot of basketball. I kept in good shape, and that's probably what helped me.
Yeah. But but what you were saying is some of these kids, no physical fitness
never,
at all.
Never. Like, dude, like young lady, young man, you're gonna join. They tell you it's everywhere. Like recruiters are telling you, all right, do what you got to do. Prepare. They're giving you paperwork. It's all online. It's on the the recruit website. Yeah. For the Navy to do what you got to do. If you follow these steps, you'll set yourself up for success.
Yeah, you'll succeed.
Yeah, sure. But a lot of these kids coming in thinking, oh, it's just a cakewalk, right? Can't run a mile and a half. Can't run a mile and a half. But you know what? It doesn't matter because when they get there, it's on us.
Yeah, you build them up.
Right. So no matter if they've never ran in their life or they're great, they're marathoners. So we got a lot of great guys that just smoked this run. I think the record at at Navy boot camp was like 7 something.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this dude was like super quick, but Mount has nothing to him. But yeah, you know, by the time their 8 weeks were up, a lot of them graduated.
Let me ask you this: did you? Because the Navy is a pipe. Normally, in my friend group, when I asked people why they joined the Navy, they specifically stated, "Well, I wanted to become a SEAL. I wanted to become a Navy SEAL. That's why I joined the Navy." In my mind, I was like, "Okay, well, the Air Force has a lot of special operations groups that a lot of people overlook. The Army has tons. I feel like the Army is probably the pipeline more for special forces, but I think the Navy has an appeal for people because of the SEALs." Did you guys treat candidates for SEALs differently than everybody else?
No, they were just like any other recruit. You know, they had you know their set of RDCs.
Yeah.
You know, the special programs and things like that at boot camp. They do a lot more running and a lot more, you know, physical, but they had the same curriculum any other person that gone through boot camp does.
So they did have a separate curriculum where it was like you're gonna run more,
right?
But the same standards,
right.
To score 100, you still have to do X, and that's not a problem.
Yeah, right. So they met those little ones.
Yep.
They met those little basically milestones, right?
Yep.
And but you know, they would have a ton more, you know, things to do.
Yeah.
You know, with their special instructors.
Okay. So that's the only question I had about the Navy SEAL people is because
let me just put it this way. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Let me just put it this way. You had SEAL trainers come in and train SEAL recruits. Cadet. Oh yeah.
So
yeah, they would have like a batch to come in.
So when they go into the recruiting station, they're like, "I want to be a Navy SEAL." Then they say, "Okay, cool."
Everybody says that.
Oh, did they really?
Oh, everybody says that, but you got a better chance of, you know, maybe making the NFL than you do becoming a Navy SEAL. A lot of people don't realize that.
That's wild.
Yeah. That's straight from my buddy who is a Navy SEAL. Yeah,
man.
Yeah. It's rugged.
Well, tell your buddy that I want him on this podcast. It'd be pretty dope.
I will. He's a Facebook friend of mine. I'll have to reach out to him. Great guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's been doing great things. You know, retired guy. He's written many books and it's just going around doing a lot of leadership and motivational speaking for good companies out there. Yeah.
Well, so like that was one of the questions because with our program in the Air Force, you went through I forget what it was called, but you went through the Special Forces pre-test at the recruiter. So you go in, like, then they're not going to take somebody that's out of shape and make them in shape. The Air Force was like, we don't have time for you. So you better come in, ready to go. You're going to swim 100 meters underwater with one breath. And I'm like, I'm in the fucking Air Force, bro. Like, I'm not in the Navy. What do you mean I got to hold my breath? Like, fucking land operations and like fucking air operations at most, right? But yeah, so it was just interesting, man, because I was always curious how each branch did it, but otherwise it was the same basic. Same basic.
Yeah.
Like I had guys with me that ended up TAC P. I had guys with me that went on to go to PJs and stuff like that. But it was the same basic training, and it was cool to get to know those guys. I actually take that back. They did have a separate flight, but we were still going at the same speed, right? Same curriculum, same classes and stuff like that.
Okay, so it seems similar to how the Navy setup was too.
Yeah. So again, but you were like, if you were in that group, you were off to the side, like.
So I'm sure there was a lot of, set things in place to even get to that point, to even reach boot camp for, a potential Navy SEAL, right? But you remember, you're not a Navy SEAL
until you graduate,
right? Until you get your trident.
Yeah.
Until you get your trident.
So let me ask you this too, because security forces is like the catch-all for anybody who fails out. Is pretty much, it's like, oh, you failed out of TAC P? All right, you go be a security forces. Oh, you failed out of PJ?
I thought that was only like a Navy thing. Yeah, they do that there too.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Where do they go?
Right.
They fell out of SEAL training. Where do they go?
Well, they just they end up picking up a job that that needs bodies.
That would fucking suck,
dude.
Could you imagine having it in your mindset like I'm going to be a Navy SEAL?
Then you're a cook,
and then you're a cook, dude.
It happens. I've seen it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. A lot of the brothers and sisters out there.
Are they like super defeated?
Some are, some aren't. They just kind of
roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like they're like, okay, well, I'm still here.
Yeah. But still, you are still serving, regardless of what you're doing.
Right. You're doing something.
Yeah, you're
making an impact.
Bro. Yeah.
There's an impact.
The services. So like the Air Force, everybody shout on the services, the people that manage the hotels on base, the people who hand out basketballs at the gym. Like, bro, you're doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, when I'm exhausted and all I want to do is go work out, nothing's better than going to the base gym, checking in, being like, hey, can I have a towel for the sauna? Like, yep, here you go. And it's just, it brings some normalcy to the chaos that is service, right?
Yeah, great services where I live. Gym's open 24 hours. It's for military active veterans, and they do time to time allow family to come in and be with you as well. But over the years they've gotten to a point where you'll probably have to pay a little bit, if you want to bring in a lot
to
of
continue.
Folks. Yeah, but it's not much. It's way less than what you would pay, at a typical, what is it, 24-hour fitness. And I know those places are not that expensive, but hey, I think it's like $3 or $4. It's not much at all, just for one visit.
Let me ask you this: over your years of doing the physical fitness stuff and then becoming a drill instructor, for simple terms, because I keep on forgetting the acronym you use, but that was 5 years, right? No, 8. You said almost 8 years.
2015 to 2022.
Yeah. So what was the shift that you saw in the mentality of recruits coming in?
Great question. So,
and I'll give you time to think about this and give you my perspective, because this is the reason why I ended up getting out, is because I was over in the Middle East, and Iran had launched a bunch of missiles at multiple bases in the Middle East, and I was pumped. I was like, this is my chance to go stomp out fucking Iran. Like, I was so pumped. So I got my fire team together. We loaded up all our stuff into an MRAP. I'm going over the operations plan that we sent to Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately got like, nope, we're not doing anything. We're gonna sit this one out. And but that was after 20 hours of waiting, and I was chomping at the bits. I was ready to go.
Man.
And then talking to some of these 18, 19-year-olds that were like freaking out, saying, I didn't sign up for this. I can't do this.
Yeah.
And like legit freaking out. And I just tried to explain to them, like, look, it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, regardless, we're going to go over there if the orders are given, and it's going to be okay. We can't fight this. We can't say, oh, I'm protesting.
Mm-hmm.
You give that up when you join the military. You get the orders, you do it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Did you experience any of that when you're training new people?
Sure. Oh, sure. So, and I've already seen that shift even before I became a recruit division commander, RDC drill instructor. But that's kind of intrigued me and kind of made me even want to do it more. And it's because I wanted to, and it might sound crazy because sometimes you get kind of, set in your ways.
Yeah.
But you got to remember, like, the military is all about adaptability, flexibility, right? Mm-hmm. We're always changing. We either change with it or you get run over, right? And a lot of these kids that are coming in, their mentality is way different from what we're used to, right? We used to be outdoors till the lights kick on. You better be home. You're going to get your butt kicked, right? But, nowadays these kids, a lot of them, they're not sporty, or they don't go out, and they're not as physical as we used to be, right? Or they're indoors a lot more, playing video games, that kind of thing. So taking that into account, those are the things that RD sees during that shift. And I think that shift happened, probably, way before I even became an RDC.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that shift happened, I would say maybe 2010-ish.
Oh, really?
I think so, yeah. But it just became more apparent how much and how much it did.
Yeah.
Training them, because you see them every day. You see the stupid shit they do or don't do, because you're literally like, they become like almost their family.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you see them more than your wife and kids or husband and kids, dude. You with them more. Yeah. I really was. I spent more time with them than I did my own wife. I'll just go home and just shower and knock out.
Yeah.
So exhausted, but every minute was worth it, and I say that because no matter who they were, right? And, I may not, agree with a lot of them and what they say, but hey, a lot of them come in thinking their mindset on, their goals.
Sure. Yeah.
And what they want to accomplish, right? And that's all great, right? But a lot of them don't come there with the mentality like, we got to be one team, one fight.
Yep.
So that's what we drill into them, like drill, and just beat them down, right? Not be like physically. I'm talking about like with physical fitness, not like physically punching them or anything like that.
Sure.
Because that's all gone by now, right?
Yeah.
Getting them on a mentality like it's just you, like me, because they come in like me. Everything's about me, right?
Yep.
But it's about the team, and a lot of them don't understand. And there's these guys. You got to remember too. I'm training folks from 17 years old to folks that are older than me. Mm-hmm. At the time I got out, they were pushing, like, they're allowing 40-year-olds plus to come in, and depending on the job, and if they needed a waiver, sure, they could get it if it was a job that really needed them, if they qualified for it. Where I'm going is, it's just
it sounds like the caliber of the candidate who came in had progressively diminished. And from an outsider's perspective, why was that? Was it the pay? Was it the benefit? Was it battle fatigue of the 20-year war that we were in? Like, from your perspective, what was it?
Yeah, good question. I think it was a little bit of all of that you said. Because a lot of these young men and women coming in too, they already have had parents come in. Mm-hmm. Right, that have gone through most of the war with me. A lot of these kids I've trained, I served with their parents. That's how old I feel. But anyway, so yeah, it's, they come in, they just have the mentality. They gotta understand it's the military. It's a team effort, right? Mm-hmm. And when I say we beat it into them in their heads and we give them a lot of different things to do, that's a team effort. And if they fail, we let them fail.
Right.
We got to. You got to. How are they going to learn? Right. And then those ones that are really resisting the teamwork, piece, which is a huge one, every branch. Hopefully by the 8 weeks, well, now it's 10, but they'll get it and they'll graduate, So yeah.
Yeah, we'll wrap this up with, when you got out, what was I've got 2 questions. This is the first part. When you got out, when you hung your hat, what was the overwhelming sensation you felt?
It was amazing. It really was. It was kind of like the pass of the torch, right? When I got out, it was a lot of COVID going on that time too, and we were trying to get through. It was tough, my wife, she became pregnant right around that time, gave birth right after I retired. So, yeah, it was like, okay, cool. I served my country. I did well. It helped me grow up and become the person I am, became a man while in the service, because, things when I was young, I didn't have a father really. And, 10 years old, he passed away due to cancer. But yeah, the military really helped me become who I am, became a man. But the overall feeling I had at the retirement, dude, man, yeah, I just cried like a baby, man. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm convinced that
my wife and kid was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
wife.
I'm convinced
Kid
that
soon after. Yeah.
Becoming a man is when you're finally comfortable crying in public.
Yeah,
like
dude.
that I'm like convinced that is
Yeah, and bro, that's a good point. Before, I don't want to see me cry.
yeah.
Especially in public. Oh,
Yeah.
you're gonna be frowned upon, or oh, you're a man, you're not supposed to cry, dude. Yeah, being
Yeah.
in the military, you don't give a shit. Like if you got to let it out, you let it out. You don't care if your brothers, sisters, family, friends are around, and they're just
Yeah.
like, "Are you good?" Well, oh yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're sitting there crying. You're like, I fucking need this. Like,
Oh, yeah,
this
let it
feels
out.
good, dude. Yeah.
It's a sign of strength. Let's put that out
legitimately, men and women, brothers and sisters that are in the armed forces.
there, man. Yeah,
and-
don't
and
fucking
law
let that shit out,
enforcement.
man.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
if you feel like you need to cry, it's okay to cry.
you got lots of support out there. So don't be afraid to get that support if you need it. There's a lot of veterans, active duty, that need support. Just remember, you do have that support, and don't be afraid to reach out. It takes a lot of strength and courage to do that.
Hell yeah, it does, man. So we'll finish this up with where do you hope to see the military go with the legacy that you've kind of forged in the lives you've touched during your time as a drill instructor?
Man, it's been great. Since I retired, I waited a little while just to see. But man, social media is incredible. A lot of these young men and women, they reach out to me that I trained, and it's just incredible. The feeling that you get, when these young men and women just reach out to you, want to become friends with you, and just tell you thank you, because you said this to me, or said that to me, or you pushed me to do this, or pushed me to do that. That's where I am. That's why I'm where I'm at today.
Yeah.
It's an amazing feeling. It really is. Yeah. It's nothing like it, man. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Well, you've done a lot of cool things, Brad. And before we cut off, tell me about these aliens, bro.
Coming to get us. Hey,
no, legitimately, this is a good point to wrap up on, and maybe we can do a second one. But did you ever see anything while out at sea that you're like, that's not ours? That you can talk about.
I'd see some shit and I'm like, what the hell is that? But yeah, there's some weird shit out there. I'll tell you what. The one thing that sticks out, and it wasn't an alien, but somebody who we know, is fucking Russia. Russia, you want to fuck with us? Come in our airspace and fuck with us when we're in the open oceans that anyone can sail on. Keep doing what you're fucking doing. We're gonna fuck you up. All right, don't be doing that kind of stuff. They're antagonizers, man.
Yeah,
they would fuck with us. They would have the hair on your back stand up. When we were out at the seas, and
they drop like bombs right next to you or something.
Well, not so much that. It was more like they wanted to show their strength, or just piss us off.
Yeah,
and come super close to ships and carriers and different ones in our fleet, right? Just stupid shit, like
I'm just imagining a bunch of sailors on the side of this like flight or a carrier with their freaking sabers, like getting ready to board a Russian ship that's coming too close, with ropes and all flying too.
Yeah, you got to be the stupidest motherfucker out there in the open ocean to want to even try to come close to a carrier.
Yeah.
They are a beast, and they're protected by everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes they just, friend or foe. I've seen both, and it's just been weird. Some of the encounters.
Mm-hmm.
Both from another military and civilian. I've seen both the good and the bad, but aliens, I fucking believe it. There's got to be some some life out there. I mean, have I seen some weird shit out there? Hell yeah. I couldn't even hey, what the fuck is that in there in the water? But I can't deny or confirm that. I'm just gonna leave that there.
Godzilla.
Shit, man.
Hey, well,
that's
Brad,
been good.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
All right, thank you.